This video will present the third-party logistics features found in the DispatchMate software. Logistics users work primarily in the status board. This is the central location to work from, as all the main logistics functions are combined within this one window. When opening the board, we set the criteria, and this determines what will be displayed on screen. These are filters such as division filters, user filters, contact filters, and date and status filters. Once we refresh, we see that data on screen. At that point, we can customize it even further by dragging the columns back and forth. And this will save it in the user profile and become the default appearance of that board. From here, we can also right-click to go into any of the profiles involved, open up the order, and generate any of the forms as well. We can print, fax, or email this directly from the software. If we click on the New Order button, this goes into the order entry screen. From here, we fill out the details. For the shipper, consignee, and customer, the functionality is the same. If we start typing, it searches the database for the next matching selection. If that's correct, we move on and it fills it out for us. If we right-click, it lets us browse in the table. Or if the contact doesn't exist, once we're in the window, we can create a new contact by clicking on the New button. Below each contact is a space to enter a different tracking number. Below the shipper is the bill of lading number. Below the consignee is the trace number. And below the customer is the purchase order number. In the middle section is where we enter the freight. And we can enter this with as much or as little detail as is needed. And once again, we can also customize the sequence of the columns, as well as choose which ones appear on screen by right-clicking over any column header. This applies wherever columns are seen in the software. At the bottom, we can enter additional information such as notes, handling or equipment codes, priority, direction, and the pickup and delivery date and time. Once we finished filling out the overview, we move on to the routing tab of the order, where we can enter much more detailed information about each particular stop. Here we can also activate the multi-pick, multi-drop and add additional stops and indicate exactly what's happening at each stop. And this takes the form of actions, where we specify what's getting picked up and dropped off at each stop. We can also select the carrier at this point, or in the quote tab, here we can enter multiple potential carriers. This lets us track the amounts that have been quoted, and we can choose which carrier we'd like to apply to the order after. We can also post this load to any of the major load posting boards, and this will take all the data on the order and upload it to one of those websites. Once the carrier accepts the order, then this can also be deleted from their site from here as well. In the rating sections, where we enter the rates, and this is how much the customer will be later invoiced for this order. These rates can be entered manually or can be set up in the customer profile. So if they have specific rates or charges, those can be populated automatically on the order. These rates can also be determined automatically with the auto rating module. That lets you set up rates based on specific conditions, such as the origin and destination, the freight amount, or different freight brackets. With the auto rating module, we can hit the Calculate Price button, and this will bring up the auto match window and search for general rates as well as customer specific rates to apply to the order. Once we save the order, it assigns it an ID in the software. It also calculates the commission, and this is determined based on the sales rep profile or the customer profile. At this point, we can send out any confirmations. Usually this would take the form of the customer confirmation or the carrier confirmation. We can print, fax, or email that directly from the software. If we preview that, the form takes the data of the order and fills it out in each section. And the form is also in the language of preference of that contact. This is set in the contact profile, and it will translate all forms sent to that contact. This applies to all forms, as well as the invoice. The language preference can also be determined in the user profile, as the software is fully bilingual and will translate everything on screen for the user. We can also generate additional documentation and customs, such as a bill of lading or international forms. And once we've finished filling out the details of the order, we can close this and return to the status board. If we refresh, that order will now appear on screen. The current status is dispatched, but when we receive additional information about this order, we can always return to it and update that status. We can simply update this with a new delivered status, or we can also enter the actual date and time of the pickup and drop-off. Based on the customer profile, we can also set up an option to send them a notification automatically. We can tailor this to each customer's specific needs, so that way they can receive an automatic notification as soon as the order is entered, dispatched, once the pickup is done, or delivered. Once we determine the send condition, we can also decide exactly what information is sent in that message. Once the order is updated to that status, the notification is sent automatically. In addition to customer orders, we can also create available loads. There's a shortcut at the bottom of the status board to do so. This goes into the available load screen. There are multiple types of available loads. First, we have a spot quote, which is a basic quote which we can create. We can create that for a customer or a prospect and then send the quote to them, at which point the customer or prospect can either reject it or book it, and this will transform it into a customer order. We also have templates, and templates sit in the database waiting to be booked. This can be used for common orders or orders that are done on a regular basis, and then we just go back into it and book it as needed. An available load can also be via web or via EDI. These are optional DispatchMate modules where these available loads can be transferred into the software from another source and then booked as needed. We can also manage all these available loads on the status board in the Available Load tab. The software also has a wide variety of other functions and reports. The most commonly used one for logistics is the Customer Order Profitability Report. Here we can enter the criteria of what data we would like to see on screen, similar to the status board. If we enter a date range, we can see all the orders that have been created since that date. The data is presented in a number of different tabs. Here we can see it in great detail. In the order tab, it's summarized so we can easily see the revenue, cost, and the margin of each order. In the customer tab, we can see the totals per customer and how many orders have been created for that customer during that time range, as well as sales rep totals and grand totals. Once the orders have been completed, they're ready to invoice. In the accounting menu, if we open up the auto invoice function and refresh, we can see all the orders which are ready to invoice. At that point, we can go into the order to review it further, or simply decide which orders to include in the batch. This will create all those invoices automatically. And now those invoices can be sent to the customer. If we open up the invoice table, they can be sent individually one at a time, or we can use the batch print function, and this will show us all the invoices we've created recently, and we can print, fax, or email them all to the customers at this point. And the final stage is exporting these invoices to the accounting software, and this will transfer all the data to any of the major accounting softwares. We currently interface with over 15. And this concludes the logistics preview of the software. For more information, visit our website and request a demo, or call or email us. All that information is available in the video description. Thank you.